Hey, hello there, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to start with another project on React.js. Now in this project, we are going to build something exciting. So let me explain you what we are going to build in this project, and then we'll start with the actual implementation of the project. So you must have seen this situation where you have group of people and you want to divide that group into multiple teams. Or let's take example of another situation where you have group of people and you want to pick few people out of that group randomly. Okay, these are the very common scenarios in our day-to-day life, right? So what we are basically going to do today is we are going to build a random team generator using React.js. So what this application will be basically doing is it is going to take list of people as input, and then it can basically generate random teams from that group based on the inputs that we will be providing. Also, it can pick random people from that list of people we are providing. Okay, so that facility will be also available in the application that we'll be building. So this is going to be very exciting. We'll have group of people and we'll select few people from the group randomly. That is one part of the application, and the another part of the application will be generating random teams from the group of people, right? So this is the random team generator project that we'll be doing in React.js. Now as a human being, we have invented so many methods to divide people into multiple teams, right? We have so many methods to divide people into teams, right? Today we'll be doing it by React.js with the help of React.js. So I hope you're excited for this project, and let's see a quick demo of this application that I have already built, and then let's start working on it. Let's start building it from scratch. Alright, so this is how the application looks like. Basically, this is the random team generator and random people picker that I have built already. And you know, it kind of looks basic because I haven't worked on the UI that much, because I worked on the functionality part rather than working on the UI. But definitely you can work on the styling part of the application and you can make it more attractive. But let me show you the quick demo how it basically works. So this is the place where you're going to enter the list of the people. Okay, so let's say I'll enter some random people name. Let's start with my name, Rushi, then my best friend Ripple, then Peter, Robert, some common names like John, Vinu, Praveen, and let's say Vaibhav. Okay, and so on. You can enter as many people as you want. Okay, so basically I'm entering comma separated values here. This is an important thing basically. So this is part of the implementation. What this text area expect is comma separated list of names. So this is what I'm entering here. Now in this select random people application or generator, what you can do is you can enter number of people that you want to select randomly. So let's say I want to generate, or I want to pick 2 people randomly, then I'll enter 2 here and I'll click on pick. So you can see it picks 2 people randomly. You can click on this pick as many times you want. It will pick random people every time. So you can see this time it picked Praveen and John. If I click on pick again, you can see it is picking Vaibhav and Vinu. So this is actually very helpful. Let's say you have real application where you want to pick some random people from the list of people, then this is the application that you can basically use. Alright, you can enter as many number of people you want to pick here. So let's say if you want to pick only one person, then you can enter 1, click on pick. You can see one person is getting picked now. Let's say you want to pick 4 people, you can enter 4. You can see 4 people are getting picked. Let's say you don't want to pick anyone, enter 0 and click on pick. You can see the list has got cleared basically. Alright, so this is the people picker, random people picker. Let's see this random team generator now. So let's say you want to split these peoples in 2 teams. So you can enter 2 here and click on generate. You can see these are the 2 teams which are getting generated. This is the team 1 and this is the team 2. Alright, so team 1 has Vipul, John, Robert and Vaibhav, and team 2 has Vinu, Rushi and Praveen and Peter. Let's say you want to generate 3 teams. You can enter 3 and click on generate. You can see 3 teams are getting generated. First team is of size 2, second and third team are of size 3 and 3 each. Alright, so this is how the random team generator basically works. Let's say you want all of them to be in one team. Let's enter 1 and click on generate. You can see all of them will be added to one single team, which actually doesn't make any sense, but yeah, you can also generate a team, one single team, and that is also fine. Let's say I want to generate 4 teams. You can enter 4 and click on generate. You can see 4 teams are getting generated. So this is how the application basically is going to work. it has two parts. First is random people picker and second part is random team generator. So this is very exciting and this is very useful actually, because in many scenarios you need to generate teams randomly, you need to pick people randomly. So I hope you are excited for the implementation, and let's start with the implementation now. First of all, what we will do is we'll set up the React.js basic project, alright, with the help of create React app. Now in order to do that, let's open a terminal, or if you're using Windows machine, then you'll need to open command prompt. On Linux it is called as terminal only. So I have opened the terminal. Let's change the directory. Let's go to the directory where I actually want to create the project. So I'll go to directory, workspace, then hobby projects, and inside this I have a folder called as React project series. So I have basically navigated to React.js project series folder. So in this folder I want to create my new project, and I'll give name to this project as random team generator. Okay, so let's fire a command to set up a project for us. So let's fire this command, npx create -react -app space name of the project. So in this case, name of my project is random team generator. See, remember the naming convention of the project. You have to use all lowercase characters, and you can use hyphens to join multiple words. All right, so this is the name of my project, random team generator. Let's hit enter. So basically what will happen now is create React app. This npm package will start generating a basic project setup for us. All right, and it will name our project as random team generator. All right, so now our setup has been completed. What we can do now is we can change our directory to this random team generator folder. So once we have changed our directory to random team generator folder, what we can do is now we can open this folder in Visual Studio Code. So in order to open this folder in Visual Studio Code, what I can do is I can type this command code, then dot means current directory. So basically we are telling VS Code to open the current directory. So let's hit this command. Now you can see that Visual Studio Code has been opened with the project that we have just created, which is random team generator. So I hope you are clear till this point. We have already done this step in previous project. So if you haven't seen our previous project, go check it out. We have covered all the basic things in that project, all right, about the setup and Visual Studio Code. Now let's start with deletion of the unwanted files. So we have done this previously as well, so let's do it once again. So in src folder, let's delete some unnecessary files. So we don't need setup tests, report web vitals, logo, we don't need index.css, also app.css. So let's delete these files. So now in src folder we just have app.js and index.js. all right. In public folder we just need index.html. so other than index.html we can delete all the other files. So let's delete all these files. Let's also clean index.html. So in head, let's keep title and let's delete everything else. And in body, we can delete this comment. Now let's change the title to team generator. All right, or let's say random team generator. Cool. And in app.js, we have import for app.css. So let's remove that import, and we can also delete the rest of the content from app component, and let me just return, let's say, app from div, app text from div. And in index.js we have so many imports which we don't need now, like import for index.css, let's delete that. Import for report web vitals, let's delete that. Let's delete call to report web vitals function, and I guess that is it. Cool. Also in package.json we have some dependencies which we don't need for this project. So for example, dependencies like testing library, so let's delete them. Also web vitals, we don't need them, let's delete them. Also we have some scripts which we are not going to use, for example build, so let's delete this script. And in JSON file you are not allowed to keep trailing commas, so let's delete these trailing commas as well. So now we are done with the cleanup process. Let's quickly hit npm install command in order to do the fresh installation for our project. So what this command will basically do is it will delete the npm packages which are not necessary now, because we have deleted few of the dependencies from package.json, right? So there are few dependencies which are not required right now, so and they were there in node modules folder earlier. So now what will happen is those dependencies will be removed from node modules folder. So I hope you are clear till this point, and now let's check whether everything is running fine or not with the help of npm start command. So with the help of npm start command, let's create our React.js development server and let's check whether everything works. You can see we are getting one error in app.js. It is saying module not found, cannot resolve /logo.svg. So there is some import for logo.svg in app.js file. Let's see that. Alright, so this import is not valid now because we have deleted logos.svg file from this folder, right? So now let's check. So now you can see app is being shown over here, app text is being shown over here. That means our setup is working fine. Let's see if we have any error in console. So let's go to console. You can see we don't have any errors in console. So basically everything is working fine. This was our basic setup for the project. See, every time we have to do any project, every time we have to do a setup for our project, this is what we are going to do, right? Now let's start with the actual implementation. So first of all, let's visualize our application. All right, so what we are going to have in the application. So at very top, what we'll be doing is we'll be having one text area, one text input, and in that text input we'll be adding the name of the people, right? This is what we have at the very beginning of the application. So let's first build a component for taking the input of list of people. All right, so let's start with that. Let me create one file inside src. Let's name it as people list input.js. So this is a file, this is going to be the component which will be taking input of the list of the people. All right, so let's quickly work on this component. So let's create a function. It will be a functional component, people list input. It will take props and it will return, see, in this case it will return a text area. All right, and let's export this component by default. So I'll write export default people list input. So I'm default exporting this component. Now let's import this component inside app.js. So instead of showing app text from this div, what I'll now do is I'll show this component from this div, and let's import this component here. All right, let's import this component. So I'll say import people list input from current directory people list input file. All right, so this is how I'm importing this component, and let's run the development server once again. Let me write npm start. All right, so now you can see instead of that app, now a text area is getting shown. Let's see if we have any errors in the console. So you can see we don't have any errors in the console, everything is clean, so we are good. Now what we need to do is whenever someone types something inside this text area, so basically I'm going to type name of the people over here. Let's say Rushi, John, Vikash, something like this, right? So I'm going to type name of the people inside this text area. Let's do one small thing. Whenever I'm typing anything inside this text area, let's print whatever content we have inside the text area on the console. So let's quickly work on this. So in order to do this, what we will be doing is in this file people list input.js, we will be adding one on change event listener on this text area component or on this text area element. Okay, so let's add one on change event listener. So when this on change event listener gets triggered is whenever there is a change inside the text area, at that time this event handler will be triggered. So let's give one function to this on change event handler, and it will be getting event object as an input. All right, and in order to get value from the text area, we can use this event object. So we get value of the text area, current value that we have in the text area from this event object. So we have this event object dot target dot value. So from this we can get the current value of the text area. So Let's quickly see if this works or not. So let's type something. You can see I just typed comma over here, and you can see it got reflected here in the console. Let's type some name. You can see things are getting reflected on the console in real time, right? So whatever I'm typing in the text area is now getting reflected in the console. All right, so I guess this is cool. I mean, for now this is fine. This is done for the text area. Now let's work on the other piece of the application. See, basically our application is divided into two parts. Okay, the first part is picking people from the list of people list randomly. This is the first part. This is the first use case. And the second use case is dividing the people into teams. This is the second use case. All right, so first of all, let's work on the first use case where we have to pick some random people from this list. So in order to do this, what we also need to do in the UI or in the application is we need to give one input, okay, for number of people, for the count of the people that you want to select randomly. All right, so let's say we have list of 10 people and we want to select 2 people out of those 10 people randomly. Then we need to get this input from the user, right? We need 2 random people, or we need 5 random people out of this 10 list, right? So we also need one input for taking input of the count of the people that we want to select randomly, right? So in order to do this, let's work on another component which will basically help us to generate or to pick random people from this list. All right, so let's go back to VS Code. Let's work on a component. I'll name it as random people picker.js. all right, and in app.js, what we will do is, after this people list input, we will show this random people picker. All right, this component. Let's import this component. Okay, now let's work on this component inside this random people picker file. So let's go back to this file function. Let's define a functional component with this name. It will receive props, and let's export default this component. So I'll write export default this name. Okay, now what this component is going to do is it is going to show one input box, one number input box, and it will take number input from the user, and I explain you what number that is, right? So let's return an input, and the type of the input will be number. All right, so let's see. You can see we have text area here, and then we have this number input. All right, so things are working fine. Let's go back. Let's see, we have some errors in the console. So what these errors are, let me refresh the page and let's see if those errors are still there. You can see those errors are gone, right? So those were some previous errors, so we are cool, right? Now let's go back to this file. Now in this random people picker.js, once someone types a number inside this input box, we'll give one button. Okay, so let's say a submit button. So once someone types a number inside this input box and then clicks on that submit button, then after that we'll show the list of random people below this input box and the button. Okay, so let's also return one button from this. Okay, button, let's say with text submit, or let's say pick. Now basically here we are getting an error. The reason of getting an error over here, or this red line over here, is we are returning multiple JSX element from this component, so we need to wrap them in a single parent. So I'm just wrapping them into an empty element. All right, so yeah, I'm just returning input box and a button. So let's see. You can see we have this input box and then a button with name pick. All right, now once someone types this pick button, what we need to do is we need to pick the random people from the list. All right, so that thing will be shown below this input box and the button. So I'll have one div over here, and in this div we'll be showing the list of randomly picked people. So list goes here, something like this. I'll show this placeholder text for now. once we have entire logic in place, we'll be showing the list here. All right, so you can see it is showing list goes here. So cool, we are good. Now let's work on few more things over here. See, whenever someone types something inside this input box, we need to capture that thing in a state. So let's create a state over here, const number of people to select, set number of people to select. So this is the state and the function to modify this state. So let's use state hook from React.js package in order to use the state inside our functional component. All right, now whenever there is a change inside this input HTML component, whenever there's change, we will get event. So we'll do the same thing that we did for the text area. Okay, and whatever value we are getting from event.target, so whatever value we are getting, we'll just set that value inside this set number people function. So basically that value will be set inside this state. All right, so once we have this button clicked, so let's add on click event handler on this button. So whenever this button will be clicked, this on click event handler will be triggered. So whenever this on click handler is getting triggered, let's see the value which is there inside this number of people to select state. So let's console log this value. All right, so let me reduce the size of this terminal so that you will be able to see it clearly. So basically what we are doing is we are adding one on change event handler on this input component, input HTML element. So whenever this event handler gets triggered, we will be getting an event object, and from that event object we are getting the current value which is there inside the input box. All right, now once we get the value from the event object, we are setting that value inside this state, which is number of people to select. All right, and what we are doing is whenever some user clicks on the button, which is pick button, so whenever someone clicks on the pick button, we are just console logging the value which is there inside the state, number of people to select. So let's see what we get in the console. Let me type, let's say 10. Okay, you can see nothing happens in the console because we haven't added any console log whenever the change is happening inside the input box. Okay, now whenever I click on this pick button, you can see 10 is getting printed. All right, let's change the number to 2. I'll click on pick, you can see 2 is getting printed. All right, so whenever a button is getting clicked, we are showing the number which is there inside the state. All right, so cool. I mean, I hope you're clear till this point. Now we need to do one interesting and very important thing over here. See, in order to random people picker to work properly, we actually need to pass one important prop to this component, and that prop is list of the people, right? See, if this component, that is random people picker, if this component doesn't has the list from this input box or from this text area, then this component is kind of useless. The random people picker component is kind of useless, right? So we need to pass list of people to this random people picker component as a prop. All right, so let's see how we can pass the list of people to this random people picker component. All right, so let me go back to app.js from where we are rendering this component, and we need to pass list of people to this component as an input. All right, now let's see how we can pass the list. I mean, see, this list is actually with this people list input component, right? People list input component has the list of people, so somehow we need to get the list from this people list input component inside this app component. So we need to get list of people from this component, and we need to store it here inside the app component. So what I'll do is I'll create a state over here, const people list, set people list. Let's use state hook to do this. Okay, see, this list is going to be array of strings. All right, because we have multiple values. All right, so it is going to be array of string, so that's why the initialization of this state is going to be, let's say, an empty array. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, this is very important. See, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this people list state value to this random people picker component inside this list state. Okay, So basically what is going to happen is this random people picker component is going to get list of the people inside this prop with name list. Alright, now how we can get the value of people list from this people list input component? So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass one prop to this people list input component, and let's name this as on change. See, whenever there is a change in people list input, we want this prop value, whatever value we are sending, we want this value to be called. All right, so it is going to be a callback function that we are going to send to this on change prop. And in this callback function, what we are going to do is we are going to, let's say, get an input of list. So whatever list we are getting, we are just going to set that list in this state. So I'm going to call this set people list function, and whatever list or whatever input I'm getting to this callback, I'm just going to set that input, or I'm just going to pass that input to this set people list state change function. All right, or simply what we can also do is, rather than writing this long syntax, we can just write something like this. Okay, this is also going to work. So basically what we are doing is we are passing set people list as a callback to this on change prop. So now what is going to happen, whenever this on change prop will be called, basically it will call this set people list function, because that is the callback function we are passing. All right, now let's go to this people list input component, and there we'll tied all the ends of this entire thing. Okay, so let's go to this component. Let me copy this people list input. Okay, so over here we are getting this on change inside this props object. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, whenever text area is calling this on change event handler, I'm also going to call on change event handler from the props. Okay, and now this props on change event handler expect a list. Okay, expects an array of string. So how we can get array out of the string that we are getting from event.target.value? See, this event.target.value is a string. Okay, string of input, I mean whatever input we are typing inside the text area, that we have inside this event.target.value. Let's store it somewhere. Let's say string input, or let's say list string. This is event.target.value. All right, now what we need to do is we need to split this string based on the commas. Okay, so let me show this to you. See, let's say I have this list. Let's say, let me clear this console. Let's say Rushi, this is my name. Vipul, this is my best friend. Then Vaibhav, this is my another best friend. So this is my list right now. All right, so this is the string that we have. Let me show you how we can convert this string into an array. So we can actually use split function from JavaScript, and we can pass a splitter which is going to be comma in this case. So let's see what we get in the output. You can see if I pass splitter as comma, you can see we are basically getting this array. So we are basically getting an array, and the string is getting splitted properly. But you know, there are some unnecessary characters inside this array. You can see this Vipul has a trailing space before his name. This Vaibhav also has trailing space before his name, and also in the end we have this empty character, I mean a trailing string, I mean a string with empty spaces, right? So let's try to clean up this array somehow. So I'll write a map, or let's say filter. Let's first of all filter this. So we'll be getting string from it. Let's say str. Okay, so if the string is an empty string, we will basically filter that string out. All right, so what I'll do is I'll get string. So I'll just stream this string first of all. Okay, and if the length of this string is 0, that means that is an empty string. Okay, so I guess there is a spelling mistake here, so I'll just return this. Okay, I mean if the length of the string is 0, then that will be filtered out, but if the length of the string is not 0, then that will remain in the array. So you can see now that empty string which was there in the end of the array has been filtered out. All right, but we still have empty strings in the names, few of the names. So in order to filter them out, or in order to clear them, what we can do is we can apply map. Let's get an individual string. Okay, and now what we'll do is we will return the trimmed string. So I'll just return str.trim. So now you can see we have the proper values. Every name is correctly being populated inside the array. So this is the logic to convert the comma separated values into array of strings, array of names. So let's add this logic here. And what we are going to do is, first of all, instead of this array, how we were getting this array, we were doing list string dot split, and the splitter was comma. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are getting the array. The comma separated values are getting split into the array. This filter, what this filter is basically doing is it is removing the empty string, the strings which have only spaces in them. So we are removing those strings, and then this map, what this map is doing is it is trimming all the strings from the array. All right, so this is the final array that we have. So this is my final list. So we just need to pass this list to this onChange function. Okay, so cool. And let's go back to app.js. So we will be getting the value of the list, and it will be populated inside this people list state, and we are passing this people list state as a prop to random people picker component. All right, so let's go to this random people picker component, and what we'll do here is we'll just console log props.list, because this is the name of the prop that we are passing, list, right? You can see it over here, list. All right, so let's see whether this is printing the list. And what I'll do, one more thing, I'll remove this console log from here. It is not needed right now, right? So let's go and check whether it works. I'll add one more name here. Let's say Raghav. You can see we are getting proper list, and this list is getting printed inside random people picker component. So basically random people picker component is now getting the list of people. So isn't that great, right? So cool. So now in random people picker component we have all the things, all the required things. We have list of people, we have number of people to select, and we also have a event whenever a pick button is clicked. Let's create a handler function actually for this. So const handle pick button click. So basically this function needs to be called whenever pick button is clicked. Okay, so over here I'll just pass this function name as value for this on click event handler. So basically whenever button is clicked, this function will be called. Now let's work on logic. This is very important. Let's work on logic for selecting random people. So it will go here basically. All right, now let's basically create one state, random people set random people. This will be the function to set the state. Okay, initially it will be empty. So basically in this thread what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically store the list of the people that we are selecting randomly. All right, and now what we'll do is over here inside this div we'll be showing this list. Okay, see, this random people is a list. All right, it is an array. So what we need to do is we need to convert this array into a string format. So the easiest way to convert array into string format is using join function. So I'll use this join function on this array, and let's join it with comma as a separator. Okay, so let's see how it works now. Let me show you quickly how it works. See, in order to show you quickly how it works, I'll go to React component tree. Okay, so basically I don't have React developer tools installed right now on my machine, on this browser basically. Let me install them quickly. So let's go to Chrome extensions. Okay, here just search for React Chrome Web Store. Let's search for React developer tools. Okay, so this is the extension that we need to add. So let's add it to Chrome, add extension. See, this is very important extension that every React developer needs to have. Okay, this was not there with my browser before, so I have just added this extension. And you know what, in previous project we didn't wanted this extension, or we didn't had any need for this extension, but for this project we actually need it. So it's good that we need to install it. Let's reload this browser. I mean, let's close this browser tab and open it again. Cool. Let's go to localhost 3000 and let's inspect. Now here you can see, after installing React developer tools, we have these two options, component and profiler. You can see React symbol in front of it. So these are the React developers tool. Let's go to components. So over here you will be able to see the components that we have in our application. So we have app component. This is the app component, you can see in blue highlight. Then this is people let's come input, and then we have this random people picker. Now in this random people picker component, we have two states. You can see in hooks we have two states. First state has value as undefined and second state has value as empty array. Okay, now let's modify this second state, this empty array. We need to pass values in this way. Let's see if this works. Basically I'm passing values in form of array of strings. Now let's see if this works. Oh, it worked. So you can see I basically changed the state from here, and you can see now over here it is showing Rushi comma Jay, and how this thing is getting shown. So you can see the logic here. So I changed the state for random people. I changed this state basically, and over here what we are doing is, in this div I'm just showing random people state. I'm using join function on it. So what this join function basically does is it basically converts array of elements into a string. So let's say array of string into one complete string. Okay, and we have multiple elements in the array, so it basically joins those elements, and you can also pass the separator that you want to be used for joining them. So let's say this time I use comma. You can, let's say, use something like this. So that is also going to work. So let's say I'll change the state again. So you can see this time, all right, it is still showing comma. Okay, so for now let's ignore the behavior of the join function, because anyways we are not going to show the output in this format that we are showing right now. We'll be showing it in some different format. All right, let's now focus on this handle pick button click function, because this function is going to have the logic for selecting random people. So let's see what logic we need to write inside this function. First of all, we have this array which we are getting from props.list. So first of all, we'll see how we can randomize this array. Okay, we are getting this array as an input. Let's see how we can randomize this array so that the elements inside the array will get shuffled. We need to shuffle the array. Okay, so let's not waste our time in writing the logic for shuffling the array. Let's search it online. So let's search for shuffle the array in JavaScript. Let's go to Stack Overflow and let's find some logic from here. Cool. So this answer has too many upvotes, like 2298 upvotes. So this sounds promising. So basically they're saying the de facto unbiased shuffle algorithm is the Fisher-Yates shuffle. So I guess this is the implementation for that algorithm. So let's pick this function, which is very handy. Let's go back to our code. Alright, now in SRC what I'll do is I'll create one helper file. Okay, and inside this helper.js I'll put this function, shuffle function. So you can see this shuffle function is taking an array and it is returning an array. So basically let's not worry about the logic which is written over here. Basically we need to pass array and it will shuffle the array and it will return us the shuffled array. So let's call this shuffle function here. And this is the array that we need to pass to it, and let's store the return value, which is shuffled array, in this variable, shuffled array variable, and let's console log it. So I'll say console.log shuffled array. The shuffle function needs to be imported, so I'll write import shuffle from /helper. Okay, now in this helper.js, this shuffle is not exported, so let me export it. Actually, see, I'm not default exporting it, I'm just exporting it. So while importing, I'll need to do something like this. So cool, I mean, now it should work. Let's see, let me remove this console log. Okay, let's go to our application. All right, let's enter some list here: Rishi, Vipul, John, Mac. Okay, and let's click on pick. So you can see it is showing this value: John, Vipul, Mac, and Rishi. So this is a shuffled array, because if you see the sequence of names here, Rishi, Vipul, John, and Mac, it is not matching with this sequence. So it is a shuffled array. Let's click one more time. You can see every time we are getting a different array, different combination. See, for first and second time it was the same, but it can always happen, right? If you have less number of values, then maybe the shuffling can be same, but you can see first and third sequence is totally different. Let me do it one more time. You can see it's different, right? So basically the shuffle function working fine, and basically we are getting the shuffled array. Now what we need to do is, after getting the shuffled array, we need to slice this array. I'll slice this array with the number of people that we need to select. Okay, so basically we know how many number of people we need to select, so we'll slice this array from 0 to that number. Okay, and let's store this sliced array in this variable, and now let's console log it. Cool, let's see. So first of all, let's enter 2 over here and let's click on pick. You can see it is picking 2 elements. It is showing array with 2 elements in it, 2 names in it. Let's store 3 over here and let's see. You can see it is showing array with 3 elements. Let's enter 5. Let's see what happens. It is showing array with 4 elements, because the array doesn't have 5 elements in it. Let's basically enter 1. You can see it is showing array with 1 element in it. Okay, let's actually add some check on this value, which is number of people to select. If it is undefined, or if this value is less than 0, then in that case, the value that we will set inside this random people will be an empty array. Okay, else the value that will set inside this set random people state will be this slides array. All right, and that's it. Okay, now let's see whether things are working fine or not. Let me click pick now. You can see it is showing John. Let me click 2 or 3, let's say. It is showing John, Rushi, and Vipul. All right, and now you can see this join function is also working apparently. So basically, sometimes this happens with React.js server. Sometimes it doesn't get reloaded properly. So if you find something like this, if you have these kind of issues with the React.js server, it is not getting refreshed. So what you can do is you can click Ctrl C. You will kill the server, and then you can run it once again. So it will be refreshed. All right. So yeah, let's enter list again. Let's say Rushi, John, Peter. What else? Vipul, XYZ. Okay, let's click on pick. You can see nothing is getting shown here, because now we are setting list to empty array. All right, let's click one. Let's pick one person. You can see it is Peter. Let's pick one more time. It is Peter again. It is John this time. It is Rushi. Okay, so in this way you can pick any random person, right? Let's pick 3 random people. You can see it is Vipul, John, and Rishi. Let's pick 4 random people. It is Vipul, XYZ, Peter, and John. Let's pick it one more time. It is Vipul, John, Peter, and XYZ. Let's pick it one more time. It is Rushi, Peter, Vipul and XYZ. So I hope you are clear with the logic now. I mean, everything is working fine. Let me explain you the logic once again that we have written inside this handle pick button click function. So basically we are shuffling the array with this helper function that we have created here. We have taken this function from Stack Overflow. We haven't written logic for this. So if you are interested in the logic, you can definitely go through the logic which is written over here. That is not the purpose of this video. We are just focusing on React.js concept. That's why I'm not going into details of this logic. Then once we have the shuffled array, basically we are checking what value we have inside this number of people to select. If this value is undefined, or if it is lesser than 0, I mean user can enter anything right inside that input box. So if user doesn't enter anything, or if he enters a value which is lesser than 0, okay, so in that case what we are doing is we are setting random people to an empty array so that we are not selecting any random person. And if this condition is false, we will be going inside the else. So in this case we are getting the slice array. We are slicing the array from 0 to number of people that we need to select, and we are getting the array with the count that we want, and then we are setting that slice array as random people state. Okay, so random people state will be updated with the sliced array. So you can see things are working fine. All right, see over here now, instead of using this join, what I'll be doing is I'll be, instead of this div, I'll be rendering one unordered list, and over here what we'll do is let's loop through this random people. Let's add a map. We'll get a one person. So let's return his value from here in li element. So basically I'm mapping the random people array, and I'm returning li.jsx elements for every element that we have inside the random people, every string that we have inside the random people. So now basically what will happen is it will show the random people name in this format. All right, now we are getting one error over here. Every child in the list should have unique key prop. So as you know, whenever we are using map, we need to give key. It should be a unique value. So let's take index as a second value. See, this map function takes a callback. Okay, and this callback that we are passing to map can receive two values. First one is the value from the array, and second one is its index. So index of every element is always going to be unique. So this can be passed as a value of this key. So now that error should be gone. Let's refresh and let's see. You can see that error is gone. Okay, let's again type some values. Let's say rushi, people, Webho, Peter, and let's select one random person from it. You can see we are not getting that any error anymore. All right, so basically that's it for the random people generator. I mean, we have basically generated, or we have picked random person from the list properly. All right, so that logic is now working fine. Now let's work on generating random teams. It's going to be very similar to the logic that we have written for picking the random person. So what I'm going to do is, see, let me close some files. I mean, there are too many of them. All right, so now what we can do is I'm just copy pasting this component. Okay, let me rename it now. I'm going to name it as team generator. All right, let's also change the name here. It is team generator. All right, now from this app.js we will also show the team generator, and we'll pass the list to it as well. All right, cool. Now let's work on this team generator. See, team generator, how it is going to work. So team generator is going to ask us how many teams you want. Okay, so let's say you say I want 2 teams. Let's say you say I want 3 teams, something like that, right? So you can basically tell how many teams you want, and then this team generator is basically going to generate teams for you. So again, basically we need same input over here, number input, which will basically tell us how many teams we want. And then we also need to have a button. Once that button is clicked, it will be generating the teams for us. So over here, instead of pick, let's say generate. Okay, and then we also need to show the teams which are getting generated. So that is something which we also want, right? So for now, let me comment this part. We'll work on this part later on. So let's work on this handle pick button click again, like what logic we need to have inside this function. See, this shuffle can stay here. I mean, we need to shuffle the array before generating the teams, because while generating the teams we need to make sure that the array is shuffled so that the teams will be random. All right, so this needs to be there. Let's see how we can split the array that we have, the shuffled array, into multiple teams. That is something which we need to work on right now. So let's think about how we can split this array into multiple teams, which is the shuffled array. All right, so first of all, let's change name of these variables, these states. All right, they are not matching with the purpose that they are serving. So let's name them as, let's say this state is going to be number of teams, set number of teams. All right, and this is, let's say, teams, set teams. Okay, see, now this teams is going to be array of array. Okay, because visualize it like this. Let's say we have 9 people and we want to divide them in 2 teams. So basically we are going to have 2 teams. So that is, let's say, this array, which is going to have 2 sub arrays, something like this. All right, and in each array we are going to have list of people which are there in this team. So this is the first team, this is the second team, something like this. Let's say Rushi is in first team and let's say Vipul is in second team, right? And let's say in first team we have 3 people, in second team let's say we have 3 people. So in this way it is basically going to look. So in this case, teams array is going to be array of array. It's like 2-dimensional array, something like that, right? So for now, while initializing, we can initialize it with empty array. But going ahead, from this function handle pick button click, actually it should be renamed as generate button click. Okay, so from this function we are going to see how we can set the value of teams. So first of all, let's have a check on number of teams. Okay, let me also call set number of teams from here whenever they change in this input that we have. Okay, so if if number of teams is equal to 0, or if it is undefined, so I'll say if number of teams, if not of number of teams is true, that means it is undefined or it is 0, or number of teams is, let's say, less than 0. So in that case we can't really have any team, right? If number of teams is undefined, or if it is 0, or if it is less than 0, so in that case what we can do is we can just set teams to again empty array. All right, else if this is not the case, we have some value which is greater than 0 in number of teams variable, then in that case we can check the length of shuffled array. Okay, let's see the length of shuffled array. With this length we will know how many people we have, right? And then let's divide this length from the number of teams that we have. All right, so once we divide shuffled array length with number of teams, we will be able to know how many people we can have in one team. So let's say we have length of shuffled array as 9, that means we have 9 people in the shuffled array, and let's say number of teams is, let's say, 3. I mean, user enters 3 as the value for number of teams, then 9 divided by 3 will be 3. So that means one team is going to have 3 people. So let's store this value in an array, in a variable, not in an array, number of people per team. Okay, I hope you are clear about this calculation. It's straightforward. We have number of people and then number of teams. So in order to know how many people are going to be in one team, we need to divide number of people with number of teams. All right, now let's add a for loop which will go from 0 till number of teams. What is the name? Number of teams. And in every iteration let's increment I with 1. Okay, now inside this for loop what we can do is we'll work on generating the teams now. Okay, or pushing generating the resultant array. So let's create one array with name res result. Initially it's going to be an empty array, let's say. Okay, now let's work on generating the first team. Okay, that is I with value 0. So when we have I with value 0, what we can do is we can slice the shuffled array. Let's slice this array from, we can slice it from 0 to number of people that we need in first team. Okay, so basically let's say we have 9 people, then number of people per team, let's say number of teams is 3, then number of people per team will be 3. So basically we'll be slicing the array from 0 to 3. Okay, this is the logic, right? Now in next iteration of this for loop, when I will become 1, at that time we need to slice the array from 3 to 6. Okay, because now we need next slot. So instead of hard coding values over here, instead of hard coding it 0 to number of people per team, what we can do is we can make it dynamic. See over here, I can write I into number of people per team. So basically we'll start from I into number of people per team. See, this is very important. Initially I is 0, in first iteration I is 0, right? So basically I into number of people per team, so I into 3 is 0. Okay, and then over here what we can do is we can say it should go till I plus 1 into number of people per team. Okay, so let's see how it should work. I is 0, so 0 plus 1 is 1, so 1 into 3 is 3, so it will be 0 to 3. Okay, in first iteration. In second iteration, when I will become 1, it will be 1 into number of people per team, so slice will start from 1 into 3, that is 3. It will go till 1 plus 1, which is 2, 2 into 3, which is 6. Okay, so 3 to 6. And in third iteration, whenever I will become 2, it will be 2 into number of people per team, it will be 6. So it will start from 6 and it will go till 2 plus 1, that is 3. 3 into 3 is 9. So it will go till 9. Okay. Now once we have this sliced array, we can push this sliced array to this resultant array. So I'll just say res.push the slice that we are getting. Okay. And once this for loop is done, once we have the final resultant array, this res needs to be declared outside the for loop actually. Okay, because every time it will be initialized with empty if we declare it inside the for loop. So let's set the teams with the res. All right, and what we'll do is also let's console log the res just to see whether the logic is working correctly or not. Now let's go back. Okay, over here we are getting one error, team error is not defined. So let's see why it is not defined, because we are not importing it here. So let's import it. Import team generator from. All right, cool. So now you can see it is getting shown. Let's put, let's say 2. Let's say I want 2 teams, and let's click on generate. You can see over here we are getting result. You can see it is showing array, and in first array we have 2 elements. First element is Rushi and second element is Vipul, and in second array we have 2 elements again, Peter and Vaibhav. So basically 2 teams are getting generated. Let's generate, let's say 1 team only. Let's see what happens. You can see we have 1 team. Okay, because all people will be added to single team. Let's generate 3 teams. Let's see what happens. Okay, now you can see in first array we have 1 element, in second array we have 1 element, and in third array we have 2 elements. So in this way 3 teams are getting generated. All right, so basically our logic is working fine. We are able to generate teams randomly. Now it's time to display them in the UI. So let's see how we can display them. See, what we'll do is we'll loop through these teams. Okay, we'll get a single team. So single team will be wrapped inside one UL element. Okay, and in this UL element we need to show the member of that team. So let me actually also take the index of the team. So this index will be key of this UL element. All right, now in this UL element we need to return individual members. So what I'll do is I'll say in this UL, let's take a team, let's map on that because this team is an array of team members, right? So let's take a member from this array and also the index of that member, and let's return li with key as index, and the value which we'll be having inside li will be the name of the member. Okay, so that's it, I guess. Let me change the spaces over here to 2 so that it will be properly visible to you. Let's see. You can see we have 3 teams. This is the first team, this is the second team, this is the third team, one after another. Let's have 2 teams. Let's generate. You can see these are the 2 teams which are getting shown. So basically our team generator is working absolutely fine. So you can actually go through the code that we have written inside the team generator.js. Alright, I'm going to post this code on GitHub, and you will be able to find the link of GitHub URL inside the description. Alright, so don't worry about the code. You can just go through each and every function, handle generate button, click. You can pause the video here and see what we have done here. You can also see what we have done here in the return, how we are showing the value. So it's pretty simple. I mean, we are just showing UL and LI tags, and we have multiple ULs this time because we have multiple teams. All right, so I hope now you are clear with the team generator, and we are basically done with our logic, the main logic that we wanted to work on. And now it's the final task that is remaining, which is styling our things. I mean, styling the project, entire project. So let's work on the styling part. Let's work on adding some CSS to our project. First of all, let's work on people list input.js, this file. Okay, let's work on this component. This component is directly returning text data from it. All right, and if you see it in the UI, it looks something like this, right? The text area looks something like this. So let's stylize this component right now. Let's wrap this text area into one div. Okay, let's add this text area inside this div. Let's add a label for this text area. This is missing right now. So let's say people list goes here. So this label will be for, let's say, people list input, and this needs to be an ID of text area. Okay, so basically I have created the label for this text area. All right, now let's stylize this div. So let me actually add a class name to this div. So let me name it as people list input container. Okay, let's create a style file. Okay, and for this component, which is where is it, for this class name, let's add a style. So first style that I'll add is the width. So it should have, let's say, width as 500 pixels. Let's say, let's add a margin. Let's say on top it will have 20 pixel margin, and on left and right it will be auto. Let's see what happens now. Okay, getting one error. So it is saying invalid DOM property for, did you mean HTML for? So yeah, we actually mean HTML for, so it needs to be HTML for here. Let me refresh it. Let's see. You can see div has been added over here, and this is the label, this is the text area. Div is actually not getting the width that we have specified, and it's because we haven't imported the style sheet. All right, so let's import the style sheet. So over here inside people list input, let's import this style sheet. So I'll say import ./style.css. okay, so now you can see this div has got the styles, but it is saying invalid property value. So let me check. In this, it needs to be something like this. So I actually added double quotes, so that was the problem. So you can see, it has got width as 500 pixels and margin as auto. So you can see it has been center aligned. Now let's add some styles for this label and text area. So what I'll do is, for the label that we have inside this people list input container, let me add a style. So for the label which is there inside people list input container, I'll give this style which is display block, and same for the text area. Okay, so basically I'm making display block, so it will take the entire width. All right, so you can see now label is taking entire width of the div, and the text area is also taking entire width of the div, but text area is not actually taking the entire width, so we also need to add few more styles to the text area. So let me add few more styles to the text area, specifically for the text area. So first of all, let's give width of text area as 100%. So now you can see text area takes the 100% width of the div, and let's also give some height to it. So let's say 100 pixels. So it will be 100 pixels in height. All right, so this is my text area. Let's add some margin top to the text area. Let's say 10 pixels, so that there will be some space between the label and the text area. All right, so this is the people list input. Now you can enter any list in this text area, and the text area looks good now, right? At least as compared to the previous one. So let's continue. Let's start working on the styles for these components. Okay, so this is done. I mean, we are done for the text people list input, at least for now. Let's work on the people picker component, random people picker component. Let's work on the style of this. See, again, this component is just returning input button and the UL. So let's wrap this input button and UL in div. All right, so I'm just wrapping them in div. Also, let's add a class name to this div. So let's say the class name will be random people picker container. So let's apply some styling to this div. So let me go to style.css. It should have the same style that we have for this container, people list input container. It will have width as 500 pixel and margin as 200 pixels and auto, not 220 pixel and auto. All right, so let's import this style file here as well. So import .style.css. Cool. So now you can see so this div has also got 500 pixel as its width, and it has got margin as auto. All right, so let's work on the inner things now. I mean the input and the button that we have over here. So let's stylize the input. So let's say for the input, let's give width as 80%. Let's say 80% of the width of the container, and for this button, let's give width as 20%. Okay, so after giving width as 20%, something is breaking. Let me see why. Okay, so for this container, let's add a box sizing property. It should be border box. Okay, again I'm applying the box sizing property for the input as well. So what I'll do is, simply I'll apply this box sizing property to all the elements, and I'll set box sizing as border box for all the elements. So I'll just do something like this. Okay, now let's apply the styles for the input box and the button. So let me copy this class here. So for the input, which is there inside this random people picker container, I'll add width as 80%, and for the button that we have inside this container, we'll add width as 20%. Okay, this is the style that I'm adding. So let's see them in action. You can see this is how they look. All right, okay, now let's do one thing. Let's stylize this button further. I mean the color needs to be enhanced. Also, what we need to do is we need to add a wrapper to this component actually, so that there should be separation between this random people picker and the random team generator. So we need to add some wrapper to it. So what I'll do is I'll go to this file again, random people picker.js. Let me add one more div, outer div. Okay, let me name it as random people picker outer container. This is going to be the class name. Okay, now this outer container is actually going to have width as 500 pixel, and this basically this style that we have added here. And this random people picker container, which is the inner container of this outer container, is going to have width as 100%. Okay, so let's see what happens now. Okay, you can see now we have outer container, and inside that outer container we have this container which is having width at 100%. all right, now what I'll do is in this outer container I'll add one heading h1 tag or h3 tag. Let me name it as random okay, let's give this heading select random people. Okay, also for this outer container let's add a border. all right, so for this outer container let me add a border, let's say 2 pixels, solid and brown. Okay, let's also add some padding to it, let's say 20 pixels. all right, now let's see. So you can see this is my select random people picker component. So now I can add any number here and click on pick, and the random people that are getting picked will be shown after this box. all right, let's also apply same styling, similar kind of styling to team generator. So let me go to team generator. Where is that? Team generator.js. all right, now over here we'll do the same thing. So basically we'll add these divs. Let me close this div, let me close it one more time. all right, over here the title will be generate random team. okay, and let me rename these classes. So this is random people picker, I'll call it as random team generator here. Now let's copy this class, go to styles.css. now this class is also going to have the same styling, which is width 500 pixel and margin auto. So I'll add that common styling to this class as well. okay, now let me add this common style, which is border 2 pixel and solid brown and padding 20 pixels. So I also want this style to be applied to this class, so I'll add this class over here in this style, and I guess that's it. Now let's see the change. Okay, so you can see this is how it is looking right now. We'll apply same style for this input box and generate button that we have applied over here. So I'll again go back and I'll apply the styles that we have applied to the other classes, but this time the name will be random team generator container. So let me add this name. So basically this style is kind of common, so what I can do is over here I can just say for random team generator container also the width is going to be 100 pixel. For random team generator input also the width needs to be 80%, and for the button the width needs to be 20%. So I can also combine these styles, something like this and something like this. all right, and now I can delete them. Cool. So now if I go back, you can see this is my generate random team and this is my select random people. So I mean, this is it. I mean, we can further enhance it, we can further work on the UI part, further work on the styling part, but I guess this is enough for now. if you are interested, and I guess you should try it, you should work on more styling part of this application. You can apply more stylings to it. We can make it more attractive. All right, currently it's not that attractive, but you can make it more attractive. So this is the random team generator and random people picker that we have worked on, and I basically enjoyed building this application with you. I hope you also felt the same. You also enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you are going to work on this application and you are going to build one for yourself. All right, don't forget to add this project to your GitHub profile and add the GitHub URL in the comment down below. So see you in the next project that we will be building in the same series.